Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today I'm reviewing a hand from a €2,000 buy-in side event from the European Poker Tour. Blinds are 150, 300 with a 25 ante. Everyone folds around to me in the cutoff, and I raise to 800 with King-Queen offsuit. Seems perfectly standard. And then, a crazy Russian kid makes it what seems to be 2,600. Apparently, Share My Pairs logo is in the way. But he makes it 2,600. And I actually remember this kid. This kid was a regular on the circuit. He is known to be blatantly bonkers and is insanely aggressive. So for that reason, I think folding King-Queen is completely out of the question. It may sound crazy, but against this kid, we could actually consider 4-betting this to get it all in for 100 big blind stacks. Like if this was a cash game, I think I would be looking to do that. But because this is a tournament, I think we want to just call and see what develops. This is the type of player who will bluff very, very frequently. So if we make a pair, we can usually hang on. I mean, this guy's effectively a maniac, right? So I do call 1,800 more. It is a somewhat sizable 3-bet, but nothing too out of the question, or too out of the ordinary. Our opponent checks the flop on ace-jack-6, all diamonds, and we decide to check behind with our gut shot, straight draw, and nut flush draw. Notice here if I bet, my opponent's never going to fold an ace, and he may even decide to check raise me, right? And if I get check raised, I am pretty unhappy. I don't think I want to just blindly pile my stack in, because my opponent could conceivably have a flush already, or he could even have a set or a 2-pair, hands that I'm not actually in good shape against. And you have to realize, if he ever has just one pair, we're never loving our scenario. The only time we're in great shape is when he has something like Queen 10 with a Queen of Diamonds, but that's somewhat unlikely. So I'm just going to check here, try to keep the pot manageable, and see what develops. Turns a king, giving me a pair. And now it looks like he bets, we'll call it 2,600, or 2,300 here. It says it right here. He bets 2,300 now. So at this point, we're getting very good odds just to draw to our straight and flush. The flush is obviously good if we hit. The straight is good enough if we hit. Of course, we're probably not going to get paid off for too much unless our opponent decides to bluff us if a 10 does come. A queen could also be good, but probably not. You really don't want to be counting on a queen as a clean out in this scenario. If a queen does come and our opponent checks, we're just going to check behind, so we can't expect much implied odds on that card. But in general, this is a spot where we can very easily call. In order to figure out if you're getting roughly the right price to call, what you do is you take the bet size, 2,300, and then you add that to the size of the pot, which is 5,700. So then you take the amount you're going to be putting in, which is another 2,300, because if you hit, you get to get that money out. So we have 2,300 plus 2,300 plus 5,700. That's roughly 10,300. Then you take 2,300 and you divide it by that 10,300. And we'll see that we need to win 22% of the time to justify calling. So keep that 22% in mind. How often are we going to improve on the river? Well, we have 9 flush cards, so roughly 1 in 5. So we're 20% right there to make a flush. And to make a straight or trips or maybe the queen, that's certainly going to make up for the other 2% equity that we need to have. So this is a spot where we can very easily call, and even if no more money goes in the pot, we are happy to put the call in this scenario. So we do call, and the river is an ace of clubs. Kind of a good card for us. If we were ahead on the turn, we're still ahead on the river. But now our opponent bets 8,800, a pretty big bet, into the 10,300 pot. Again, we can see his bet size right here. If this was a normal player, I think this is actually very close to a fold. Because notice that most players are not going to bet a king in this scenario. So if he's betting, it's usually with a flush that he slow played, an ace that he played cautiously on the flop, or absolutely nothing. And given that most regular players are not going to be 3-betting absolutely nothing from the small blind, you can pretty much count on him having one of those 2 premium hands. I mean, maybe some good, like just great players will turn a hand like Queen Jack with a Queen of Diamonds into a bluff. Although actually he wants me to have the Queen of Diamonds. Maybe he turns Queen Jack offsuit into a bluff to try to get me off random King Queen with Queen of Diamonds or something like that. I don't know. Weird scenario in this spot. He's very polarized, and because he is crazy, I think I have to pay him off. And whenever you're in the spot, often you're going to be shown that you lose, right? But that is okay, because we are getting okay pot odds, not great. We need to win maybe 30% of the time. But I think we will versus this crazy Russian kid. I mean, if you guys knew how crazy this guy played, you would just be happy to put the money in. That's what it amounts to. I'm not going to try to justify it much more. I like the call. I'd make this call all day, every day. And he shows up with ace-king. So a lot of people look at this and they say, you said the kid was crazy, but he has ace-king. How is that possible? Well, sometimes crazy, aggressive players do get good hands. And when they do, they tend to get paid off. And there's nothing wrong with paying off players who are very aggressive and somewhat crazy. You're going to pay them off incorrectly sometimes, and that's one of the main benefits of playing an aggressive style. Like I said, if this guy was a very straightforward player, I think I have an easy fold. Like if this was in the World Series of Poker main event against a 65-year-old guy who hasn't put a chip in the pot, I would have just folded pre-flop, right? But because this player's played in such an aggressive manner and worked hard to develop an aggressive dynamic, he gets paid off for a pretty huge amount. And I think I played this hand fine, but I also think my opponent played this hand great given his tendencies and the way he has played so far. If he had bet the flop, I certainly would have called. He would have bet the turn again, I would have called. He would have bet the river, and then I maybe would have even called. So maybe he lost a little bit of value in this exact hand, but I think he won a nice pot and should be happy with his play. I guess let me know what you think about this hand. Maybe you think I'm a little bit too optimistic versus a crazy Russian kid, even pre-flop. Maybe I should have just made a tight full pre-flop. I don't think so, but if you think so, let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoy these videos, please let the people at Poker News know so they continue to have me making these videos. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.